على محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Societal and social by nature, or do we believe in the primacy of the individuality of man, i.e. man is individual essence-wise? Or is man by essence, by nature, an individual being? These are two positions, and it all depends from which angle you want to approach this question. Sociologists may prefer a particular view here. Theologians also seem to side with the sociologists. But I want to present another angle here, and it's the position of the Urafa, who believe that man, by nature, is not a social being. Rather, man is an individual being. I'm using individual and private interchangeably here, but I mean by both of them that which is in opposition to being social. The Urafa, from Mullah Sadra onwards, and maybe before, but that's the earliest they've found so far, they believe that man is by nature an individual entity, essence-wise. Their identity lies in individuality. And they support their claim with verses of the Quran, and the rationale is interesting, and inshallah we'll get to it tonight. Okay, just a few preliminary points before we enter the main theme. So, we believe that man is an eternal being, and that man's spirit, the spirit of man, even though it arose once upon a time during gestation, at around, let's say, 4 months, the spirit from that point onwards will always be, that created spirit will always be eternity, post-eternal. But did this spirit which was born, let's say 4 months into gestation, did it always exist pre-eternally? There we said no, and we explained why not in previous sessions. I didn't want to repeat always. And then this existence of man is established through this immaterial, eternal soul. As long as that is, the soul is, man is. And we believe the soul is eternal, man will be eternal. And since the soul is eternal, we believe heaven and hell are eternal realities, because heaven and hell are functions of the soul. And that's why we believe heaven and hell to always be for you as man, because the soul is always. But when you look at plants that also have souls, there the soul isn't immaterial like the souls of humans or animals. And the existence of plants persists through typology. So if there are some individuals of that plant type which remain, that's how the existence of plants persists. Not through their soul, like with humans, because their soul is material, the soul of plants. And by material, what is meant is that existence-wise, they depend on matter. If you get rid of matter, the soul of plants ceases to exist. Whereas with human souls and even animal souls, there, if you get rid of matter and matter is taken away or destroyed, the soul persists. That's another point. Now, with man, all his or her actions and services in society and with others every action that man does, it's to elevate oneself, one's soul. And every protocol we have in Islam that we have to abide by, be they individual protocols or social protocols, the underlying aim is to elevate that soul of man. That's the underlying aim of all Islam's actions. Whereas with plants, that's not the case. It's either to preserve their type or to be of service to others, not for themselves. Others use plants, they feed on plants, for example, and so on and so forth. But no, with man, whatever they do, it's to elevate the soul, this soul which will always be. So even in social relations and interactions, Islam's aim is for man to elevate one's soul, or in other words, to journey towards Allah. These are synonymous, to get closer to the divine. Now, we said that in man, that ultimate objective is to become a lover of Allah, a disciple of Allah, a waliyullah. In other words, to acquire that proximity with Allah. In other words, to incorporate those divine attributes within one. That's the ultimate goal. In the same way that an apple tree is the ultimate goal of the apple seed. But we said with the apple seed, everything is there for it to grow. With man, everything isn't available for him or her to grow. And therefore we said for man, they're coerced in order to reach that end goal. In contrast to plants, they have to integrate into society. This integration is a secondary phenomenon though. Not that man by nature is a social animal. If that was the case, man would have lived like plants. But man isn't social by nature. Otherwise everything would have been available for it. Man is individual, but in order to reach that end goal, they're coerced to integrate into society. They're coerced because they need a butcher, they need an architect, they need a doctor, they need a state agency. You know, they can't survive without it. When they enter society, out of necessity, out of necessity, they have to build a number of mental constructs to survive materialistically and spiritually. One of those constructs is ownership, one is leadership, certificates, salaries, penalties, sentences. They have to construct it, or otherwise society would lead to chaos, bedlam. So they have to build these constructs to survive. So they have to integrate to reach that end goal. And when they're in society, if they don't build these mental constructs, it's going to cause mayhem. And that's what man knows. Man is full of these mental constructs. But these mental constructs are based on a reality. They're not just assigned willy-nilly. But since we're so used to these mental constructs, even the pre-religion man, on an island where there's no religion, for example, even they make these constructs. It's something which is innate in man to build these constructs. But since we're so used to them, more than we would like to imagine, and we mentioned a few examples in the first session, when Allah comes and speaks religion to us, instead of disclosing the realities of religion from day one, which may be too deep for us to understand, he explains these realities in the language of mental constructs. Because that's the language we know. We don't know of any other language. And then through that language of i'tibarat and mental constructs, we have to get to the batin, the inner reality of religion. That's only a service. It's a conduit to the realities of religion. Okay. Now, in relation to this dunya, in this planet, this planet Earth, we're all assembled together and we live a social life, and we're all interconnected somehow with one another. But this social life that we have is a product and consequence of this planet being an abode of conflict. What I mean by an abode of conflict is, at the end of the day, this planet is limited. This land is limited. This person is limited. Since it's limited, and people have all want a claim to a given piece of land, this leads us to build those mental constructs. Otherwise, if we wouldn't construct ownership, then everyone would want the same piece of land. And that's going to cause problems. If we didn't construct marriage, even the pre-religion human would understand what marriage is. Why? Because everyone wants the same woman, the same man, for example. You say, no, we have to construct something called marriage. We have to construct something called children. Now, it gets a bit delicate here, and I'll come with the verses of the Quran in a minute. But this social life is a product of a material, limited realm of existence. Once you take materiality, and once you enter the immaterial realms of existence, like the hereafter, a social life has no meaning. It loses meaning. I'tibarat loses meaning. Why do you want to construct anything? Everything is real now. And that, inshallah, maybe tomorrow we can discuss that more. But we may all be assembled in the hereafter, but each to their own. Assembly is one issue, but individuality is another, and they're not necessarily incompatible. I'll come with the verse of the Quran in a minute. But resurrection in the hereafter, which is a result of our actions in this world, it's a function of the soul. It's a function of the self. There's nothing else. It's only you and your action. In this world, in the hereafter, it's you and that which your actions were. But it'll appear before you. It'll manifest before you. It's even happening right now. But there, it's manifesting. Otherwise, the hereafter exists right now. Okay. Now, let's go through a number of verses of the Holy Quran to try to make sense of the preliminary points we've mentioned so far. Chapter 56, verses 49 and 50. Surah Al-Waqi'ah. Inna al-awwalina wal-akhirina lamajmu'una ila miqati yawmin ma'loom. Verily, the earliest ones of people and the later ones, they're all assembled. Majmu'una. They're all assembled. They're all gathered towards what? A known day's appointment. But they're all gathered here. Okay, now what does this gathering mean? Is it referring to a social phenomenon here? Can we have a gathering where there's no sociability or not? Another verse, chapter 19, verse 95. وَكُلُّهُمْ, and all of them, آتِيهِ, come to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The pronoun is referring to Allah. All of them come to Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the day of resurrection, fardan, individually. This is getting important now. Because those who believe in the primacy of individuality, like the Urafa, they want to base their theory on the Quran ultimately. Everyone, they come to Allah in the hereafter, not here, the hereafter individually. It's only you and you. You and your actions. Your actions are in unity with you. Your actions are a product of you, not a product of someone else. When you, in the hereafter, it's only you and your actions before Allah. In chapter 6, verse 94, وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادًا, it will be said to people in the hereafter, that verily you've come to us furada, individually. You see? You've come to us individually. Now, it's not as if, the hereafter is a material realm of existence, where individually may have meaning there. People entering the place individually. There's no materiality in the hereafter. Hereafter is Yawmul Akhir. It means another manifestation. Yawm means manifestation. The reason we call this 24-hour day Yawm, because during the day things are manifested, in contrast to the night. It's another manifestation. If the hereafter was going to be material too, then it wouldn't have been called Yawmul Akhir. It wouldn't have any meaning then. It would be called Adunya again. Verily you've come to us furada, individually. كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ, as we created you the first time round. Now, what does that mean? That when we created you first time round, when was that? Some say it's referring to during gestation. When you were a fetus, there was no social life there in the womb of the mother. There's no mental construct there. The fetus is individual and is living like the plant in that sense. Everything is ready for it to reach its, let's say, short-term goal. As a fetus, there's no social life there. It's only when the fetus is born they slowly enter the social life, and it depends on people and so on and so forth. But there are no, as long as one is a fetus, there are no mental constructs at that time. In the hereafter, in the verse, it's saying you've come to us individually, i.e., it's only you. You as an individual entity, not a social being. Like when we created you the first time round as a fetus, individually. It wasn't a social being. Okay, so when we analyze this further, we see that examples of mental constructs then become much more expansive now. And Allah is referring to them as mental constructs and not as real things per se, but as things, mental constructs which are highlighting, indicating, reflecting a reality. That reality is important for you to reach that end goal. And Allah is speaking in the language of i'tibarat here. Then we see that fatherhood, motherhood, siblings, spouses, these are all i'tibarat. They're all i'tibarat. They're all mental constructs. A father doesn't exist in the physical realm of existence. It's not a father, it's a man. It's not a son. It's someone who's procreated male. Being a son, a daughter, a spouse, these are i'tibarat. these exist in this world, these terms. Because without them, if we didn't assign marriage, if we didn't construct spouses, children, fatherhood, motherhood, it would cause bedlam, chaos. And even spiritual chaos. Parents is an i'tibar. But this i'tibar is dependent on a reality. That reality is two procreators. And when it says respect your parents, it's based on this reality. That it says respect your parents. Okay, we're saying parents is an i'tibar. But this i'tibar, this construct, is dependent on a reality, which is two procreators creating or procreating. And because of that real, external reality, that relationship, that real relationship which exists, and that how one, to reach that end goal of one's spiritual perfection, they're dependent on those who procreated them. They constructed terms like mother and father, because Allah wants to speak in the language of i'tibarat with us. And then says, respect your mother and father. But mother and father, they're i'tibarat. But it's a reality which is important. I'm not sure if I managed to convey that. It's an important point. But we'll keep on repeating. And now, when we come to the hereafter, therefore, these terms need not exist anymore. So, motherhood, fatherhood, siblings, spouses, they don't apply anymore in the hereafter. They only applied here as constructs, but they have no meaning in the hereafter, because there's no sociability in the hereafter. We don't even need these terms. The reality is, and that reality is going to be manifested. How did you treat your parents in this world? It's going to be manifested. In chapter 80, verse 33 onwards, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَّةُ, when the blast arises and comes, when the blast... That's okay. When the blast, the hereafter, when it starts, Qiyamah starts, Yawma, it's a day where يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ, man escapes. Now this escaping isn't a physical escaping. There's no physical reality in the hereafter. This is a providential, takwini reality that the Quran is explaining now. In the hereafter, man escapes. Escapes what? It goes through a number of classes of people. Min akhi, escapes from one's brother. Because there is no brotherhood anymore. Brotherhood was this dunya, a reality of this dunya. It doesn't exist in the hereafter. Man escapes from this in the providential sense, takwini sense. He had a brother in this world. In the hereafter, though, the term brotherhood has no meaning, because there's no materiality in the hereafter, one, and there's no sociability in the hereafter. Wa ummihi, and escapes from what? Their mother. Motherhood is a construct. Wa abihi, father, escapes from his father. As the previous verses said, you're encountering Allah furada, fardan. It's all individual. Those terms were in this dunya, and you needed them in this dunya to grow and to reach your end goal. But now it's all reality now. Forget mental constructs. It's all reality. Those mental constructs were constructed for it to indicate as a conduit to reality in this dunya. It was a guideline for you to reach reality. But right now, there's no materiality now. There's no sociability now. Forget these. Whether you want it or not, irrespective of that, you're going to free these terms. By nature, it's according to the natural system of things now, you have nothing to do with them. Your brother, your mother, your father, وَصَاحِبَتِهِ, your spouse, وَبَنِيهِ, and your children. See? These are terms of this world. They have no meaning anymore in the hereafter. How did you treat your parents though in this world? How did you treat your spouses? How did you treat your children? Yes, those actions which were important to reach your end goal. And that's why Allah used such terms, because He says, give respect to your parents, your brothers, your sisters have certain rights over you. It's all dependent on a real nature of the cosmos. For you to grow spiritually, you have to link with certain people in real terms in certain ways. But for you first to understand that, Allah came and spoke in the language of constructs. Not that there's such a thing as motherhood or fatherhood. That which is real, you can't point to motherhood, it's a term. You can point to a woman, you can point to a procreator. But motherhood, these are just terms that we assign. And even the pre-religion man, they would have assigned such terms too. But there are many things the pre-religion man wouldn't have assigned. But even the pre-religion man, they're drowned in these mental constructs. And the reason that when a religion comes, all religions speak in the language of mental constructs, so that people have some appreciation of that. But if it would come in the real sense, disclosing the realities, people would not understand. And then, the same verses, it continues on verse 37. It gives a general formula now. After saying what it said, لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ, for every one of them, person, يَوْمَئِذٍ, on that day, شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ. Really, the wording is very delicate here. For every one of them who are entering the hereafter individually, it's only them and their souls. There's no mother, no father, nothing. For every one of them, there's sha'anun yughni. There's a dimension adequate for them. It's adequate for them. It's adequate. Because it's only you and your soul. Is the time? Is that the adhan or? No, not yet. Yes. So, yes. So there's a sha'anun, there's a dimension adequate for them. And that's the soul. All the actions that you did, that were incorporated within you, all the love that you acquired and you incorporated within you, be it of your mother, father, or anyone, it's going to be manifested in the dimension of the soul. And that's adequate for you. You don't need anyone else. There's no sociability. There's no social relations. Yes. That's a good ending to the lecture. That's okay, yes. Another verse, وَمَنْ, this is verse 44 in chapter 30. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا, one who does righteous actions, فَلِأَنفُسِهِمْ يَمْهَدُونَ. Who does righteous actions? It's for their own souls they're preparing. Preparing for what? In the hereafter. But it's only for their souls. See, sha'nun yughni, a dimension which is adequate for them. It's only you and your soul. And every action you do, if it's good, you and your soul will manifest in one way. If it's bad, it's going to manifest in another. Actually, the same verse, Man kafara fa'alayhi kufru. One who discloses kufr, it's upon them. Their kufr is in unity with them. No one else. Sha'nun yughni, a dimension adequate for them. Chapter 23, verse 101. فَإِذَا نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَلَا أَنْصَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ. When the horn is blown, referring to the hereafter, there is no ansab between people. This is explicit now. There's no kinship. You keep on wanting to interpret the hereafter as something material. Just like in this world. There's no kinship in the hereafter. Kinship has no meaning in the hereafter. La ansaba. There's no consanguinity in the hereafter. Consanguinity is a mental construct here. It's based on a reality though.
So the father cannot understand his son and the son cannot relate to his father?
Not like we do in this world. But let's say the son had a love for the father. That love will be manifested, but it's in unity with their soul. Not that there are two individual people, discussing and loving one another. Yes. Falo ansaba, there's no kinship. In another verse, and we'll end here, chapter 2, 254. With these verses, I don't start from the beginning of the verse because some of them are very long, so I just start from the middle. Ayati yawmon, a day will come. La bay'un fihi. There's no buying and selling in the hereafter. Why? Because buying and selling are mental constructs here. Because we have to integrate into society. As a result of that, we have to assign, build these mental constructs like buying and selling, ownership. In the hereafter, la bay'un fi. When? In the hereafter, it's explicit. These are worldly concepts. Concepts for a limited realm. Not for the hereafter. Okay, that's okay. We understand that, inshallah. وَلَا خُلَّةٌ. There's no friendship. Because friendship and enmity are mental constructs. When Allah says X person, be friends with X person, be an enemy of X class of people, be a friend of X class of people. This be a friend, friendship, and be an enemy, enmity, or hostility. These are mental constructs, however. Like with all other i'tibarat, they're based on a reality. Since if you socialize with X class of people, it will be detrimental and act as an impediment for you to reach that end goal, the i'tibar has come. Don't be friends with him. Don't be friends with him. Or sometimes it's be hostile to him. Being hostile to a certain class of people is important for treating an X class of people in a certain negative way. Sometimes it's necessary. A question?
Is there a tangible example for this?
The class of people, yes.
Yeah. Could you,
Yes.
Like when Allah says be friends with these people and not be friends with
Yes.
those,
So,
could you please give
yes.
us an
So, for
example?
example, be friends with the Ahlul Bayt, for example. It's a very simple example. There, when you're friends with such a person, it's important for you to reach your spiritual end goal. Such a real relationship. Allah comes and says, be friends with him. That be friends with him is a mental construct. Otherwise, outside in the real, it's one person and one person. There's no friendship tangible that you can point to. But this relationship, real relationship, encountering such a person, since it's important for you in reaching that spiritual end goal, Allah comes and gives the i'tibar that be friends with such a person. But in the hereafter, there is no friendship anymore. And the question... Sorry. Yes. I'll come to that in a minute because that's the third. You're one step ahead of me, yes. Sorry?
I want to mention something.
Yes.
As you said, in the hereafter, there's no intersection between, friends, family. Just come with my mind. Sometimes when the martyr, like Sharif died, and because I was his friend,
Yes.
It will intersect me as, Shafi'ah.
Right.
How will you call this one? Is it intersect?
Right, yes, that's the same question as the brother. You both mentioned the same. It's very interesting, yes. And the reason I'm saying you're one step ahead is because the same verse, which says, La bay'un fi, there's no buying and selling in it. It says, Wa la khullaton, there's no friendship. Wa la shafa'aton. Wa la shafa'aton. There's no shafa'ah in the hereafter. Yes. Well done, well done. Shafa'at is to be acquired here, in this world. Shafa'at, to the degree you follow the guidance of a martyr, as you said, or an imam, or a good person. There's a rank, righteous people, there are degrees. To whatever degree you follow the guidance of a person in this dunya, that is shafa'ah. It will be manifested in that sha'nun yughni, in that dimension adequate for you. It will be manifested in the hereafter. Not that we enter the hereafter and then we see someone say, can you now work for me and sort this out and be shafi? And that's the problem that we have. When you stick to the i'tibarat and don't look beyond the i'tibarat, your tawheed, your nubuwwat, your ma'ad, your shafa'at, all becomes a superficial i'tibari understanding of religion. And inshallah tomorrow we'll give some examples. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله